Okay, welcome to our fourth session of Digital Matters. I'm here with Matt Locke, and today we're going to talk about Google Search Console. So I guess this is an integral part of having your website and understanding how Google is seeing your website. So to find the Google Search Console, you can see I just typed in Search Console, and the first link that comes up is Google Search Console. You obviously need a Gmail account to get into Google Search Console so that you can log in. As we've sort of been talking about sort of Google My Business in the past episodes, I would suggest that you use the same email address so that you can get between the Google different products with the same email address and you're not logging in and logging out. You'll see that when you come into my Search Console here, I've got our own site up here, and you get a general overview with quite a lot of graphs and different things like that. We'll go into that, but I guess the first thing I wanted to do was show you how to get yourself onto Search Console if you're not already in Google Search Console. So when you establish the account and you've linked your Gmail address or Google address into there, you will actually come up into the corner here and you just add property. Okay, so I'm going to actually do one of our other sites, which is engageshoalhaven.com.au.
Are you sharing your other screen at the moment? We're looking at...
What are you looking at?
Some water.
It's on New Zealand.
Yeah, we can't see anything but water. It's very nice.
Oh, I had shared desktop too, and it decided to... Okay, so...
There we go.
Yep, thank you.
Beginner's luck of doing webinars. So we'll just talk about that sort of stuff again. As I said, when you come into Search Console and Google Search Console, you'll come up with it as the first link normally. Once you're logged in, you can obviously, I'll go back through this again. You get logged into a page. If you've already got a site in there, you'll actually see those sites, and you can flip between sites up in the top left-hand corner here. So I can just add a property here, okay? And I'm going to add one for Engage Shoalhaven so that I can actually get to that. Now, this part is, a little bit technical. You need to modify DNS records. So if you don't have access to those DNS records, it's best just to talk to your provider and they can do this for you. And it's in this next step where I go continue.
Sorry, when you say provider, Brad, you mean whoever handles the IT for someone? So in this...
Whoever handles the IT or your website. So if you're hosted on, something like GoDaddy, you can ask them via support or you can log in yourself. But yeah, if you're not sure how to use, a DNS manager, it's best to get your IT company to help you out with that to sort of get in and do that work. So when you add it, you can obviously see there it's got instructions for any DNS provider. You can drop that down, and if you're hosted with one of these companies in France or Spain, like it's got a few there, a few examples, so it can actually do it. But it is quite simple, and I'll show you what to do here. They'll give you a text record, and it's quite a long record. You need to copy that, okay? And I've got up here the window for our cPanel for Engage Shoalhaven. All right, so the record needs to be pasted over here into this record field. The type is TXT. I put a time to live in there, and then I'll copy and paste this into the zone name, and then I'll add the record. Okay, so it's going to add that record now.
What's that actually doing right now in a layperson's?
So what it enables is Google to say, well, you own that domain. You don't. Google doesn't want to be giving out statistics to anyone for any domain. This is about having access to the DNS records of a domain. Sort of it verifies ownership that you have access to that domain. So that's what we've just done. Then now I come back to here, and it should have actually. You normally give it a minute or two. Just to make sure that the DNS gets time to reload and propagate. And if I click verify now, it should actually verify for me. Ownership failed. So classic not working at the moment. It's still not come across. So we need to come back down in here, and it's actually found 2 text records. I can actually see here that there was one from before, and then there's the one that I've added. So I'm actually going to delete this one. This is because we've probably added it before, or one of my staff's added it, but I don't have access to it. I've now got that one down there. Okay, let's actually see if this actually works now. Okay, so I'll copy that again and come back, and I'll just make sure that I edit this. Delete. Let's try and see if we can verify that again. Hey, there we go. So I now then can go to that property. All right, and as you see, it's processing that data at the moment. It will take a little while to get that propagated in the first instance, and then you can have a look. So I guess the thing you've got to be aware of when using the Google Search Console is you want your site to be verified in here. Now, with most web packages these days, you can actually set up what's called a sitemap, okay? And the sitemap is a code-based representation of all the pages on your website. Now, you sort of may ask, why do I need that? Why wouldn't Google just come along and crawl everything? Well, there's situations where you don't want it to have stuff in its index. So your sitemap can actually specify what pages that you want it to crawl. And you can also use that in combination with what they call a robots.txt file, which you actually place in the root of your website, which we can talk about another day, which actually allows sort of different paths on your website to be blocked. And examples of that are things like the admin login, or a specific sort of private page that you might have that you don't want the world knowing about. So if I come into sitemaps here at the moment, there's no sitemap in there. We can obviously add a sitemap. We won't do that in this session. I'll take you back to one where we've actually got that session set up, and we can.
Out of interest, Brad, is that something that the layperson can do to create a sitemap, or is that something that the web developer needs to do?
So there's products, if you're using things like WordPress, there's sitemap plugins that will generate a sitemap for you. And it bases it on posts and blogs that you've got in your WordPress site. And same likewise with other products like Joomla or Drupal, or all these open source based CRMs that people use on their websites. They normally have sitemap plugins or the ability to build a sitemap. And you can have a look at what these actually look like. We should be able to actually copy this and take this. This is the one for IT Basecamp. I should be able to actually take you to itbasecamp.com.au and put my sitemap.xml on the end here. All right, and there's an example of a sitemap. Okay, it doesn't look too pretty. It's not something that someone needs to be looking at other than search engines. So, and as you can see here, this is a nested sitemap. If you sort of start looking at this, you can see there's multiple sitemaps under the top sitemap. So this one here, like you can see here, goes to another one. And if I paste that into my browser, I can go down to that section as well. And the thing that the sitemap does, it's a bit gobbledygook, obviously, to read, but you can see here it's got the location and the last modified. So if I'm actually looking at some of these different sections here, and find one, it'll individual pages are indexed underneath the sub sitemaps. So and stop me if I'm getting this is too confusing, but you can see here this URL, for instance, is last modified on the 3rd of March, 2nd of March, I should say, and its change frequency is weekly. So what we're asking this Google bot to do there when it looks at this sitemap is to come back weekly to look for changes, and we put our last modified date in there now. And
So
most
sorry, Brad. So if a site doesn't have a sitemap, is that like a black mark from Google's perspective? Does it hurt the SEO?
No, not really. What you're doing, the Googlebot will still come along and look for links on your website, and obviously just traverses down, through your site. What you're doing more here is reinforcing what you want it to see, and it will cache all of these URLs for going to look at, and then when it looks at them, it'll actually try and look for more URLs that maybe not in the sitemap, or ways to get to different places from those pages. So this is more about you giving it a reference point on your website to actually then go and find the different pages.
So if a site doesn't have a sitemap, it's not going to be penalized in some way?
No, not straight up. I do suggest if your site's brand new, you get this information in as quickly as possible, because as we all know, new sites take a long time to index, and the quicker that you can get this information to Google, the quicker its Googlebot's going to go, "I'll come and have a look at that sort of stuff," and start building the index and building the caching or building their search engine sort of information in.
In the same way, if you added a new page to an existing site, you'd add it to the sitemap.
Yep. Yeah, so you can resubmit the sitemap. So this one here, the sitemap's been indexed successfully. It's discovered 75 URLs, and it was last read on the 14th, which was yesterday. So, it's obviously quite current in what information it has. So, I guess, if you need help with that sort of sitemap stuff, ask your developers, ask us. We can certainly help you get this thing up and running so that you've got a successful sitemap in the Search Console. The other things that are obviously available in the Google Search Console include, coverage and errors. The thing with the Google Search Console, it will tell you if there's pages on your site that have different errors. It also, will tell you about things like mobile usability, as you can see here. If there is some mobile usability issues, all right, it'll actually show up in here as problems. And the other big one, which is really important, and if you have a security problem with your website, Google is good at finding these things out. And I don't know if you've ever seen it when you go to Google and you search for something and it says site may be hacked. Guaranteed you'll come into the Search Console for your site and it'll actually tell you if there's some security issues on the site. If it's found some security issues, the big thing with Google is if it does find security issues on your site, it will delist your site from the search engines until you've fixed it and come back into the Search Console and tell them that you've actually fixed the problem. All right, and that's big. So, if you've got a really busy site or you're getting lots of traffic through your site and for some reason Google detects it that it's been hacked, until you fix that, your site will not be found organically through any of the Google mediums. So, obviously there's a bunch of legacy tools and reports down here, which give you things like crawl stats, and the number of pages crawled per day, and how often the Google Search Console is coming back to your site and looking for information. So you can see here, on average, Googlebot's crawling 26 pages on our website a day. So, how long it's taking to get that sort of information. There's a whole bunch of statistics here, which are really useful for web developers. Maybe not so useful for people sort of coming in and not understanding how some of this stuff works. But certainly anything you see in here, you can obviously Google information about it because it's their own product. And this is the big one here. So you can see here the performance, and it tells us how often our page has been impressed and what the key words are, for people that are looking for us and how many clicks they've had. So obviously, IT Basecamp's, 29 clicks, 307 impressions. So impressions are how often Google's going to impress your your page into their search engine. So, and the whole, obviously, the better these statistics look, the better your site is. So, they've got things like CTR up here, which is click-through rate, and your average position and how many impressions you've had. So we've had 12,500 impressions.
So just to be clear, Brad, sorry, an impression is every time Google puts you in front of someone, puts eyeballs,
right. Yeah,
a pair of eyeballs.
Yeah.
And
right.
out of 307 impressions for that first IT Basecamp, 29 people clicked as a result.
That's right.
So about 8%.
Yeah, that's right. So, again, like they record all this sort of stuff and how people use Google, and you can see that information in here. And it is really quite powerful to see what your keywords are on your page, and where they are. You can see here that we've been impressed 725 times for hybrid cloud hosting with 0 clicks. So if you wanted to focus on some keywords, on your site and how they turn up, then here's a place to actually see, what Google's got. If you obviously want to get your ranking up in Google onto different pages, then here you can see like what keywords and what phrases and things that it's impressing for your website into the search engine. And some of these are quite high. You can see here like 109 for hybrid IT, for IT Basecamp. But if I actually come back in and and have a look, for hybrid IT, I can tell you that we probably won't rate very highly. We're probably back on page 35. So it's telling us that it's actually put us in there and someone's looked at it. So because the page has been loaded, but we haven't obviously gained a click from it. So obviously there's lots of information you can garnish from the Search Console that can be vitally important to getting your marketing right. And and obviously if you click across here, it gives you the different pages and how many impressions they've got. You can see here our our ongoing website support and maintenance has had 1,800 impressions, but only 2 clicks, which is very low. Shows you the countries. Obviously, most of our impressions, well, quite a bit from India. That would probably account for the number of Indian development companies that actually contact me, asking if we want their free development services or their development services. The types of devices, you can see here that a lot of our stuff is still coming from desktop, and the impressions on desktop is 10,544. We get a lot of people going to our website just to get into our remote support. So, we do know that, and they just go to the front page, click on the remote support, and they're done. And obviously, this search appearance, something I probably need to understand a bit more. It's a new feature I haven't sort of looked at, but again, Google's your friend. Go and find out what this is all about, and it'll tell you. So, and here's the the dates, the impressions of this over the past 90 days. So, it is a very powerful piece of information, because, as you know, most searches, 90% I think now of searches originate from Google. So
that's an incredible statistic, isn't it?
Yeah. So it is really quite impressive. So we haven't got any data in our new one that we added yet. We will go ahead and add some sitemaps maybe in another future edition of Digital Matters, because we're up to our 20 minutes now, and I think I've sort of said enough for the Search Console.
It's a good introduction.
It is, and the thing we'll look at next week is possibly looking at analytics, and the fact that you can actually link analytics into the Search Console. So we will dive into Google Analytics as a starter, and try and link up our Engage Shoalhaven Search Console to that to see how that works as well. So that's in week 5 of Digital Matters, and thank you very much for joining us, everyone, today. And
thanks, Brad.
Yeah, no worries, Matt, and we'll catch you all again next week.